Congresswoman Victoria Spartz immigrated to the United States in the year 2000. She grew up in Ukraine, met her husband Jason on a train in Europe, became a U.S. citizen, worked her way up from a bank teller to a CPA, finance executive, became a successful business owner, and then an Indiana state senator. Now she serves on the U.S. House of Representatives, on the Judiciary Committee, where she's one of the loudest voices speaking out against the administrative state, communism, and the influence of mega corporations like Blackrock and their takeover of the entire global economy. Here is what Representative Spartz said during a Judiciary Committee hearing where they were debating the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and all of their rules and regulations, and how it goes from being an agency caring about the environment to suddenly being an administrative agency that's pushing all sorts of unintended outcomes on the American people. An urgent warning from Representative Spartz.
I want to concur with gentle lady from Wyoming that actually EPA probably is the most abusive agencies, and actually Supreme Court ruled last year on their complete overreach of their power and authority delegated on the Clean Air Act. And what they're doing with Clean Water Act is actually
clean air, clean water.
I would argue that trying to take private property rights by the government, private property, abusing the power of the government. And when governments try to take your private property, this is actually a communism by Karl Marx.
Yes,
it's not even socialism, and it's very dangerous. And I'll be honest with you, look at the P&Ls and financials of all large corporations and all these big funds like Blackrock. They're doing just fine with all of the regulations that my Democrat colleagues issued. They're making a lot of money, but who is getting hurt is the little guy, that farmer or some business owner that cannot afford to hire lawyers and CPA for $1,000 an hour, that cannot afford to go and lobby to every government level and sitting in the offices and trying to make their case. That's who's getting screwed.
Big
and
time.
We now have a situation now where all of the so-called dark money doing just fine, but the little guy has no ability now to be able to start a business and be able to compete and have abilities to make money. I think this is a very dangerous situation where we're now concentrating the power close to the government, close to Washington, D.C., and giving the power to the bureaucracies that people have no ability to even have an input.
Right.
I mean, this is crazy, and this is very dangerous for our country. And I will tell you, I mean, EPA is so creative. They do the suicidal gimmicks, to try to violate even Administrative Procedures Act. They're doing all these definitions, They use and they pay people to come into committees and lobby on something that doesn't help the people. But in reality, that's what's happening with all of these environmental regulations that we put. Because when they're unfeasible, what's happened right now? That we're killing, destroying businesses in our country, and companies like Blackrock are part of it. They're given a lot of power. They don't have to follow the rules. But what's happening?
Everybody
we're burning coal from China. We're helping Russia to make a lot of money, and American companies are getting screwed. And our pollution has net effect higher than was before. Because when we push our companies to do business in lawless and corrupt countries and dictatorship, they collude in the same environment. We don't build the walls, from China or anywhere else, in the same ocean, and all pollution goes. Instead of have reasonable laws,
outsource
the representative of the people and the businesses here, and help our people and our companies and our Americans to succeed. So this is just dumb. And if you think about it, some of these funds, that wasn't this, climate change agenda of BlackRock, like British funds, that actually there are some activists that are honest and actually respect if someone is honest, not hypocrite. If you want to drive everyone a bike and you're driving a bike, I respect you. But if you're flying big jet fuel jets and you want me to ride the bike, well, screw you. You're not going to tell me what to do. This is wrong. You have no power to do that. And these big companies have no right to tell us what to do. And I think we as legislators need to think about it, who we're representing, because these agencies do not represent with the people.
No, they don't.
They represent big special interest group. People rotate between them. They get in jobs and lobbying and careers and all of these these different companies, and they're promulgating these rules to benefit large special interest groups. And now they are becoming so powerful that everyone is afraid to challenge them. And I think if we are not going to go back and think, what are we doing here? We're going to destroy our country, how it is known and how it was set up. And it is very, very dangerous. So our branch has to get our act together and start doing our job and not be afraid of administrative state, not be afraid of large corporation and big money that coming from all directions. But we actually remember that this republic is set up in being the greatest republic in the history of the world for only reasons. There is no difference between the people, because the people have the most power and freedoms. And if we take these freedoms away from we the people, we're going to unfortunately abandon and betray all the people who die for our freedoms. I yield back.
Oh, man! Burner! Woo! Absolutely outstanding. She dropped it like it was hot. And I couldn't agree with her more. And she is speaking with some intensity and some passion. You can see it in her neck. And a lot of our other politicians don't have the same urgency or the same intensity. They sit around and say, we're going to work real hard to do the thing, and we care about America, whatever. They're not even speaking about real issues. This is a real issue. This is communism in hiding. They use the EPA and all of these administrative rules and all of their lobbyists to get policies done that aren't even in alignment with the underlying mission of the agency, like the EPA. And when they get in charge, they use the regulatory frameworks to pull the ladder up. The big guys get on top and they pull the ladder up. So smaller businesses, individuals, and people who want to be productive and create in this country can't play the same game. They're doing the same thing with AI right now. They want all this regulatory framework so that only Google and Microsoft and OpenAI and the big boys have it, and everybody else gets sidelined. And while many of our Congress people are focused on issues that are largely irrelevant to most of us, the administrative state is this regulatory leering agency that impacts and is like a cancer on the entire country. And they have used it to do communist things, like when the CDC said, that's not your property anymore during the pandemic. That's our property, and you can't do what you want to do with your own property. When they said that you can't go to your business and open its doors, that was all done under the regulatory administrative state. And this woman, Miss Spartz, is not from the United States, but recognizes it when she sees it, comes out and delivers an absolute fiery speech in Congress. Hopefully somebody else in Congress heard that. I would like to see a lot more of that. That energy is contagious, and it would be in the interest of America if that caught with more of our Congress people. Whew, Congresswoman Spartz.
And start doing our job and not be afraid of administrative state, not be afraid of large corporation and big money that coming from all directions. But we actually remember that this republic is set up in being the greatest republic in the history of the world for only reasons. There is no difference between the people, because the people have the most power and freedoms. And if we take these freedoms away from we the people, we're going to unfortunately abandon and betray all the people who die for our freedoms. I yield back.
Oh gosh, so good. Absolutely right. The reason America is strong is because of the freedom, and these idiots are trying to limit that. Love it.